Hey, Cavs fans. Welcome to another episode of the Cavs Pick and Roll podcast. I'm Alex, and I'm here with Corey. How you doing tonight, Corey?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Could be a little better. I had surgery on my arm.
Ooh.
Got 16 stitches. So
What did you do to get
just
that?
a little sore.
How did that happen?
You know what? It's skin cancer. I had another melanoma. It's my second time having surgery to have a spot removed. Yeah, it's no fun at all. So Everybody wear sunscreen.
Pretty much.
It's too late for me, but
it's too late. Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question, Alex. What would you do if you had $150 million? What would you do?
150 million.
Yeah. Would you go get a tan so you don't have to worry about, like the sunscreen as much? Because you are kind of light.
It'd have to be a spray. It'd have to be a spray tan.
That's all right.
I'd be looking pretty orange, probably.
Yeah.
150 million. I mean, the government's going to take their 40%, right? So
That's
you're
true.
already down to like 90 million or so. Oh man, I don't know. The funny thing is, I was just reading an article about this. I guess there's some sort of Michael Jordan tax that some of the states do.
What?
For when players are making so many millions of dollars, and you know how they travel from state to state to state playing their games. Well, some of these states decided, hey, if you're going to be working in our state and making that amount of money, then you got to pay this tax. So a lot of these states like tax players tons of money, even if they only play a few games.
That's
in
crazy.
the state. Yeah,
That's crazy. Huh.
Never knew about that.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of that.
It's a thing. Yeah.
But 150 million, you and I will never see that in our lives. But
Nope.
You know who did? You know who's going to see it and more and plenty more?
Donovan Mitchell.
Freaking A.
Spider.
A. I know that this happened about a week or so ago now. I think, Alex, you were up in Michigan again when kind of a lot of this stuff were happening. So this was our first chance to kind of record and really just talk about the Donovan Mitchell extension finally happening and is official. 3 years, $150 million. And when you first saw that, Alex, did you have any initial reactions outside of just finally? Like, what'd you think about the dollars and the years and all that stuff?
I thought it was a good deal. To answer your question real quick, I'd probably buy a beach house with a lot of shade and then bank the rest of the money. But
you wouldn't buy like 0.5% of Cleveland Cavalier like ownership. Like you could be a minority owner. I could totally see you doing that.
I had like dreams of owning, and I thought about a lot about owning an NBA team, right? Like if I was a billionaire, would I want to buy an NBA team as much as I love the NBA?
Okay, side question then, real quick.
Yeah.
It can't be the Cavs. Pick any other team. Let's just pretend you had $1 billion and you can invest and be an owner in any other team outside of the Cavaliers. Who would you do?
Well, the Celtics are up for sale right now.
That's true. Screw the Celtics.
So I'd buy a portion of the Celtics.
Front runner
and
bandwagon.
That team is they're so far over the cap. They signed Tatum to an insane deal. They signed
Derek White. Derek White gave a bunch of money.
Oh yeah, like that team is going to be over the cap for years to come, and boy, that whoever buys that team, they're in for it, man. Yeah, they're in for it. Like I don't know. But yeah. I mean, I like buying an NBA team, man. That's kind of like the dream. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, do I want to have to deal with all the BS that comes along with it? Like even Mark Cuban is, sold the Mavericks. Like he doesn't. He's
out the game.
He was a very active owner. Like he was there. Like it seemed like he was there every game. He was involved in all the decisions, and
sure,
even he's out now.
Well, you can always own a team in NBA 2K, Alex. You could do franchise mode. You could play GM mode, all that stuff, I guess. But sure. Going back to Donovan Mitchell, 3 years, $150 million. Oh, and by the way, the third year is a player option. So this does unfortunately mean we could be doing this all over again in 2 years, meaning, hey, We know we're going into the third year. We know that Mitchell can opt out. So it's time as a Cavs fan to just freak out again. That's any fan base, though. But hey, he's here for a couple years at least. 3 years, 150 million. I like the deal as well. He could have
three years at least, Corey, because he still had one more guaranteed year on the past contract.
Yes, exactly.
3 more years guaranteed, unless he asked for a trade, and then the player option.
Right. And, so that equals what? Roughly, I don't know what the stack was year over year, but we're talking roughly 50 million a year, which is insane. But the contracts in today's NBA is insane in general. And you mentioned Jason Tatum. I think he just got a $380 million deal, somewhere around there. And Mitchell could have taken a longer deal. I think he could have done 4 years. But the reason why he took the 3-year deal is because then he hits the 10-year mark in the NBA, and he will then qualify for a Jason Tatum-like contract. So I don't mind it because it makes sense from a business perspective from Donovan's point of view. And from the Cavs, we're not locked up in like some 5-year, $400 million contract to where if 2 years from now, we like still haven't gotten over that hump and Donovan's turning 30 at that point, and he's getting towards the end of that contract where that player option becomes a factor, it might be time to reset anyways at that point. You know what I mean? So I like the deal because I feel like it gives some flexibility to the Cavs. They're not locked in long-term $400 million type of contract. Donovan should be happy. He's getting paid, and he knows his next contract, he's really going to get paid. And ultimately, as a fan, we know that we're going to have Cavs competitive basketball for the next several years, guaranteed, because when you have a player of Donovan Mitchell's caliber on your team, it's not just playoff appearances. It's beyond that. So the expectations, the bar will always be high, and we should see quality basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, Donovan is a transcendent player. He's one of those once in a lifetime players, and we are so lucky to have him on this team. Like, I haven't seen a player play like him on the Cavs since LeBron. Right? He's almost like mini LeBron.
Yeah.
50 million a year. It's a deal. It's a deal for us. It's a good deal for him. It works out. We got at least 3 years of prime Donovan Mitchell. The Cavs are going to be competitive, like you said, for at least the next 3 years, as long as he's on the roster alone. I think it's great. It's fantastic. And we got, the whole core four coming back this season with Jared Allen, Darius Garland, Mobley, all these guys, still very young, but peaking, they should be peaking and being in their prime, during these next few years. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I want to get back to the core four in a second. I want to ask you one more question on Mitchell before we move on. Going back to the trade that the Cavs made with the Utah Jazz to acquire Donovan Mitchell, which required us giving up a whole bunch of draft picks, Colin Sexton, Marketing, Abaji. We traded away some pieces. And when that trade happened, there was a lot of just kind of shock. And even Cavs fans were, there's still a pocket of them today that feel like it wasn't worth doing all that. And if Mitchell wouldn't have extended and we somehow were forced to now trade him or he left us or whatever, then yes, I would say the Cavs lost that trade. But now that we know he's going to be here for at least a few more years, I said it to you this way in work a couple days ago or last week or whatever after this happened. I'm going to say it the same way here for the listeners. If you imagine the trade hadn't happened yet, if somebody was to tell you that, hey, you had to trade Colin Sexton, and these other pieces, some draft picks for the next couple of years for a chance to have a 4 to 5 year window with Donovan Mitchell on your team, would you take that? Most of us would have taken it. And guess what? We're going to get that 3, 4, 5 year window with Donovan Mitchell due to this extension. And Utah is already ready to move on from the pieces that they got. I'm pretty sure they already moved on from Abaji. And I hear rumors of Sexton being available and Marketing as well because he's due for a big payday. So really the only assets they'll still have is the draft capital they got from us. So I feel like this validates the trade, and that's always good too, because it would have been mud on our face if he would have moved on from us. It would have been kind of another embarrassing moment to add to Cleveland sport history if this didn't happen, right?
Sure. I agree with you. Hindsight, I'm just thinking back to when that trade happened, and I was check it out. What was that? My Siri's going off, man. Yeah, thinking back to that trade, I was like not super thrilled about it because we gave up our future, right? I can't remember how many first round picks we sent the Jazz. Was it 5?
I don't even know. It was at least 3, but it might have been more. Yeah,
it was a lot. It was a lot. It was like the next 10 years almost.
I looked before we started recording, because we're going to talk about the draft and everything, and the Cavs selection. We don't actually own our own next first round pick until 2030. Yeah. As it stands right now. At some point, the Cavs will make a trade, and they'll get some, at some point they'll make a trade to where they net a first rounder here or there. It's not like we won't have another one until 2030, but as of right now, they don't own any more first round picks. The pick they just made in the NBA draft this year is the last one that we own until 2030 if the Cavs were to do nothing else, which is, that's scary, man.
Yeah. I mean, when we made that trade, we wagered our entire future to bring Donovan Mitchell in. We got rid of Lauri Markkanen. We got rid of Colin Sexton, Abaji, our pick that year that we had high expectations for. We didn't know if we were going to have Donovan Mitchell for 2 years, and we were giving up all that. It really worked out that he signed this extension for us. Like you said, it's it could have been embarrassing.
It could have been very embarrassing,
and we could have been in a really bad spot, not having any first round picks,
no leverage, no leverage, because everybody knows he wants to leave or he's not going to extend or whatever. So all that doubt goes out the window. All the he's going to New York bullshit that we've heard since the day we acquired him out the window. All that stuff. And it was funny because Cleveland fans are, they always seize the opportunity. And when that extension officially came out and started to get out on social media, Cavs fans let the national media hear it. And one of the ones that I saw that was, circulated the most is, I forgot about this. There's a video of Kendrick Perkins, like the day the Cavs got eliminated from the playoffs, of Perkins saying, Donovan Mitchell 110% has played his final game in a Cleveland Cavaliers, episode or not episode, jersey. And so everybody was, retweeting that video and saying, all sorts of troll comments. And Cleveland had fun that day. And there was a lot of folks saying too that, like, hey, this is a big deal because in Cleveland, it's not very often someone at this caliber chooses to be here. Like, besides LeBron coming back after he left, is there a bigger player in Cavs franchise history that decided to come here in their prime and extend into their prime years? Shaq coming back, that doesn't count. He's past his prime. He was a one and done. Like, we've had a lot of those type of scenarios. But this is a player in his prime, top 15, top 20 player in the league that decided, yes, I want to be here. I want to stay here.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
I mean, it's huge. When you're one of these small market teams in the North with the cold weather, the Cavs, the Pistons, the Bucks, it's difficult to get a good quality player, especially a superstar or a transcendent player like Donovan Mitchell or Giannis. When one of those players ends up on one of these small market teams, it's pretty incredible, especially when you can hold on to them.
Yeah. And the Bucks drafted Giannis. It's not like Giannis chose to go there. So sure, the Cavs traded for Mitchell, but Mitchell decided to stay here. Just as Giannis, he re-signed a contract too, and he could have moved on as well. But
you think Mitchell wanted to stay in Cleveland? You think he likes it here?
Well, you know what? That day, something else interesting came out too, which was kind of cool to see. But the Instagram story that he dropped, where he's just driving around in his car and he's just like, I been saying all along, I'm happy here. Like, I had a call with Woj and told him I was happy here. There was reports that came out after the season ended for the Cavs from Woj that Mitchell says he's happy in Cleveland. Like, he's like, I don't, basically it was kind of cool because you don't hear that very often. Because like a lot of people could just say, well, of course he's going to stay. He's getting paid, but then he'll just request a trade in a year. And sure, that could still happen. But not a lot of players come out after something like that and say, like, yeah, I do, like, this wasn't a difficult decision. Like, I'm happy here. I want to be here. This isn't something I had to really think about very much. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, even in our last episode, I was like, man, if you follow Donovan Mitchell on social media at all, you'd know that
all the signs
he
were
wants
there.
to be here. That he's always taking a picture wearing some Cavs hat or Cleveland T-shirt or like everything, like him working out. He's wearing
where
Cleveland gear.
Where you have to worry is when your favorite athlete on your team changes their profile picture in a scenario like this
and unfollows the team.
Well, it doesn't unfollow the team, but like it's like just a headshot or it's just a random like cutoff. It's no longer like that jersey for the team they've been playing for. That was their profile picture for the last 9 months during the season. All of a sudden, it's just, LeBron with a headshot and, and boom, I'm leaving for a second time to go to LA. You're right. He was rocking Cavs gear all off season so far. So like you said, man, we're lucky to have Mitchell here. I know there's some people that don't think that, but man, we're going to have competitive basketball here for the next couple years with his extension. And that's always a great thing. You mentioned the core four, Alex. This was another kind of hot topic. There was a lot of spicy rumors that came out at the end of the season. We talked about that a little bit last episode, and kind of like the Mitchell going to New York rumors and all that, like it just kind of fizzled because you said it right before we started recording, there was a report that came out about, Garland's agent saying if Mitchell extends, he's going to force a trade. Well, guess what just happened within the last couple of days after Mitchell extended? There was reports that came out that said Garland was pissed when he found out that those reports came out that he would request a trade. So basically, right. BS.
I mean, that's the way that I feel about it, right? I feel that it's a load of bull. Like even that initial report was just from somebody's social media account. There wasn't any. It was somebody saying Clutch Sports is saying this. There was never a valid source to begin with. So it seemed like BS right off the bat. I see a lot of people saying now that why did Garland wait so long to refute this? Is it just damage control?
Sure. Could
be. Sure. You could think that way. You could play that angle, but in my opinion, there was never anything there to begin with.
Yeah. Garland's already gotten paid. He's already gotten paid, so you can't use that angle. And sure, he had an off year. He didn't play great last year. And we talked about it, and there is somewhat of a conversation there of, does it make sense long term for Garland and Mitchell to play together? Can they coexist? I don't know if they can or not. It certainly didn't work out the greatest this year, but a lot of times too was how many times were the team healthy enough for them to play together? That's the core four, not just Mitchell and Garland. But the other thing that kind of came out is it was real hot at the very beginning, like, there's a lot of teams interested in Garland and all this stuff. And then you started to see reports of, well, the Cavs are telling teams that they're not ready to move on from Garland. And then you see reports from like the Wojs and the Windhorse and all that stuff of like, there's not really a great trade. He doesn't have a high trade value right now because he did have an off year because his salary is so big and the Cavs basically would have a hard time getting equal value back. It's the Kevin Love scenario all over again, to where you were never going to get equal value for Kevin Love. And right now with Garland coming off of an off year plus having the large contract, you're not going to get great returns if you trade Garland right now. And I know that pisses off a lot of Cavs fans, but it makes sense to me right now. I think if you go into the season with the core four, fine. Okay. I would love to see them shake it up a little bit too, but you can always play a couple months into the season, and you have the trade deadline. And if you start to get some spicy offers, or you see it's still just not working out between the two of them or whoever, hopefully his value is higher then because he's playing basketball. Right now, he's not playing basketball and just came off of a bad playoff run. You're not going to get great value for him in the trade market right now.
Yeah. I mean, I never liked the idea of trading him to begin with, and that's because it would leave a huge hole on the roster. So what are you going to do? You're going to trade our starting point guard for everybody wants some sort of wing player, some sort of small forward to fill that hole, but you're just creating a hole at point guard. Even if you shift Mitchell down to point guard, okay,
no.
Now you got a hole at shooting guard. You got a hole at small forward.
Mitchell's not a true point guard, and
he isn't. He can run point.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not.
He would get cooked. He would get cooked in today's NBA.
You don't want him. He's already a ball dominant player. You don't want him bringing the ball down the court all the time for your team. So I mean, if you trade Garland, you've got to get a quality point guard back because we don't have anyone even remotely that could replace him on the team.
So who's giving you a point guard of equal or better value of Garland back? Who most likely will be older than Garland, by the way, right? Because Garland's still, 22? I mean, okay, so you get some veteran, you get somebody back closer to Mitchell's age, 25, 26, 27, somewhere around there. So he's a few years older. I can't think of another point guard that's out there right now that is as good as Garland or better, and that is on a team that would be willing to part ways with them.
And is also going to give you that wing that you want so much.
Right. Yeah. So
it's just not going to happen.
It's tough. I think it was Wendy who said Jared Allen actually has a higher trade value right now than Garland because Allen's on a more friendly salary. I mean, he's making $20 million a year versus whatever Garland's getting. And there's plenty of people that have their beef with Jared Allen right now because of the whole playoff thing, which is fine and dandy. But we also all know what Jared Allen is capable of. We all know that we are getting a steal out of what the Cavs are paying him right now versus what his production value is. So it makes sense that his trade value would be higher. And then the argument is there, well, you get rid of Allen, you move Mobley over to the 5, and then you no longer have the two bigs clogging up the paint, and you go out and you find a stretch 4. And I understand that argument too. But, as time is going on, not that I'm talking myself into it, but if the Cavs just aren't receiving the offers that they want, and if they decide to move forward with the core 4, that's most likely what's happening, is they're just not receiving the offers that they feel are going to really improve over what Jared Allen gives you today, or you're not going to get equal value back for Garland. And don't forget, Atkinson, the new coach, had Jared Allen as a former player. And maybe he's maybe he's like, no, I don't want to move Jared Allen because I know what he's capable of. I want him here, So it is what it is, man. It's tough because a lot of teams did get better in the East, Alex. A lot of movement happened over the last couple of weeks with free agency.
Yeah, there has been. Atkinson had Jared Allen and Karis LeVert. I know there's a lot of people that are hot on using Karis LeVert as a trade package also. Yeah. But, I just don't know. I just don't really see it happening.
Again, I don't know. I mean, it's tough. The toughest thing about this team, I feel, is like we still haven't truly found out what they're capable of, because it's just been year over year of injuries kind of plaguing the season. I know you referenced this a couple times on the podcast. You'll say, Cavs fans, they want to move all these players. They always forget about that run they had, right, in January, February, where they won like 17 out of 19 games or whatever the heck it was. But the crazy thing was that was without Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, who were both out. We've never gotten to see a long stretch of basketball with this team healthy and intact to see what are they truly capable of. That's the big mystery question. And I also think that's why they might go into next season with the core 4 again, because it is kind of scary what this team could be if everybody was healthy. We just haven't gotten to see it yet.
Yeah, that's the thing. They haven't been healthy. They're all still extremely young.
Yes.
Like, these guys haven't even hit their primes yet. So, there's still a lot of potential there. There's still a lot of growth to be had. Yeah, we came up short this past season, but the past several seasons we've seen improvement season over season. There's no reason to think that they can't improve again this upcoming season. New coach, it's a lot easier to replace a coach than it is to shake up a roster. So I think we're doing what we can do here and still maintain what we have and still expect improvement. I think the sky's the limit for this team. And we really showed that, hey, this past season, the only team we lost to was the team that won it all, the champs. So, if we're healthy, we got a new coach that maybe is a little more offensive minded, that can help develop some of these players a little farther along. Hey, we could be right there in the mix, in the dance.
Yeah, I think it comes down to Garland having a bounce back year and Evan Mobley taking that leap next year. I think it's the success of this Cavs team, the roster as it is today, and ultimately next season will heavily bank on those two things, in my opinion, especially, and this is what it feels like, you're going to run it back basically, because you don't have a lot of wiggle room. You don't have salary to do anything in free agency. You have a couple trade pieces, but an $18 million salary or whatever LeVert is making these days isn't very much money salary wise in the NBA anymore. You're not going to get a ton back. And sure, there's things about LeVert's game that can be frustrating, but at the same time, he's a bucket, right? And if we can actually be healthy and use him in the role of what he's meant to be, sixth man or second person to come off that bench, that Jamal Crawford score buckets kind of role, he'd be perfect at that. The problem is when he has to sit and play starting minutes for stretches of time because we have two, three players out of the rotation, and then it just doesn't work anymore. Same problem we had when Chetty was here. Chetty worked for that 1 year when they finally moved him to the bench. When he didn't work, when he was playing in a role that he shouldn't have been playing in all along, which is basically trying to put him in as starting small forward post LeBron years. It was never going to work. So again, there's an argument for running it back. I also understand the fan base that doesn't accept that when they see New York getting Mikal Bridges. They see Philadelphia signing Paul George. They see the Orlando Magic bringing in KCP from the Denver Nuggets. Alex, the East is not getting any easier. And I could see how that has some Cavs fans nervous because the Cavs don't have a great track record of staying healthy. What's your thoughts on those moves those other teams are making? Any of those scary?
I think Paul George is out of his mind. I think I don't want to say he's washed, but I want to say he's on the decline.
Well, sure.
And the fact that he got all upset about not getting the same money that Kawhi Leonard was offered by the Clippers, he should have known. He should have known he wasn't going to get that much. I don't know why he got so upset about that, but the interview that I saw, he was really pissed. So he took the next best offer he could get that wasn't with the Clippers.
Sure.
And so he's going to the Sixers. Good for him. I don't think it makes them that much better, honestly.
I mean, on paper, it sounds like great. We'd be over the moon if we somehow got Paul George added to this team, right?
Absolutely, because he would definitely fill a need on our team.
Yes, definitely. And he fills a need for Philly too, but it's also like, I think he's 34, so he's getting up there. They just gave Maxey, a huge contract, which he deserved. That's fine. Embiid, he's had some health issues here and there. It's going to come down to, can Embiid and Paul George stay healthy? You know what I mean? That's what they're heavily relying on.
It kind of reminds me of when I think it was the Celtics that gave Gordon Hayward all that money to come there. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like he's like on the back end of his career. He doesn't got much left. He's like injury prone.
This is his last. This is his last contract.
This is Paul George. Like, it reminds me so much of that.
This is his last run. And then like Orlando getting KCP, we just faced Orlando in the playoffs. We know that they're a young upcoming team with some great pieces on it. Adding KCP to the team is a great addition for them. That should help elevate them. And I hate to admit this, but I think we all be lying to ourselves though if New York is not the team that kind of scares us the most, because they were kind of already an up and coming team, and then for them to bring Bridges into the mix, and for the most part to be able to retain that team, they did lose Hartenstein to OKC. Mm-hmm. Got that Mozgov paycheck out in OKC. I think he got 80 million or something like that. He's set for life now.
I'm glad to see them lose Hartenstein though. Yeah, I think that's a big loss for them. That was one of their bigs that was super physical, and gave our bigs a hard time. So now that he's gone from New York, like I'm feeling pretty good about Mobley and Allen being able to get in there and bang and get rebounds and work in the post without Hartenstein in there. And that's trying to hurt somebody.
That's the argument for keeping a Jared Allen, because it ain't going to be Evan Mobley pushing Joel Embiid around or Hartenstein around. He doesn't have that, physical mentality or physical build, at least not yet in his career. And that's what Jared Allen is used for. But New York is a team, that's going to be reckoned with. Boston's not going anywhere because they basically are running it back, and they've been a team for years. You have Orlando on the rise. Philadelphia will be there if those players stay healthy, and all of a sudden it's like you're already doing the math, and it's like, are the Cavs? The Cavs might be bumped out of that top 4 kind of conversation, right? At least on paper, and that has a lot of fans kind of freaking out. And the fact that the Cavs aren't really making any transactions so far this year. So I understand that argument as well, but they're kind of limited, man. Unless they trade one of the core 4, there's not a lot of things they can do right now.
No, there's not. I think, they have the MLE available, but if they, decide to what, depending what they offer Okoro, we'll bite into that. And if they use the MLE, then they'll be hard capped at the first apron.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's just not a lot they can do. And, everybody, when you say run it back, a lot of people think that that's a negative thing. But in this case, I really don't believe that. I really think this is a fantastic team that could win it all if they can stay healthy and just develop a little more. This could be their year. I see no issue with running it back at all.
Yeah, and I know there's plenty of Cavs fans that would disagree with that.
Oh yeah,
but the difference is we didn't go through our playoff run these last 2 years completely 100% healthy and just weren't good enough to compete and got eliminated that way. No, we got eliminated. Well, this year at least because Donovan Mitchell didn't even play the whole series. You know what I mean? Allen missed the entire series. Like, we had too many bodies out, and we're not the only team that suffered that. There's other teams that got bounced because of health issues as well. But that's the angle that I can at least say to myself for right now. If the Cavs don't do anything, it's like, okay, I have to remind myself, this is year 3 now of Mitchell, and we haven't seen a healthy Cavs team yet. What can this team do healthy? Let's see what happens the first couple months of the season, see where we're at the trade deadline, and go from there, basically.
Yeah. I'm super happy they're bringing back the core 4. If they want to shuffle around, the bench, I'm totally cool with that. Do whatever you think.
Sure.
Levert, whoever, Niang for sure. Just Strus. I don't really care. Whatever you want to do with those guys. If you think you can improve the team, do it. But I think we got a really good set of starters here that are growing together and get better every season. So why shake it up?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I feel like there'll be some sort of small tweak, but it won't be anything earth-shattering, I don't think. But the Cavs will have one new player added to the roster this year. The question will be of whether or not that person will crack the rotation at all. But we were talking about draft picks, a little while ago, and the Cavs don't own another one until 2030, unless they make some sort of trade here. The Cavs had a draft pick this year, the 20th overall pick in the NBA draft. And they went with Jaylon Tyson, a 6'6" guard. Nice to see somebody over like 6'2"
Yeah,
added to
yeah.
this roster.
Well,
Has a little bit of
he can play
size.
the 2 and the 3, so
Yeah.
maybe he'll eventually fill that hole.
Yeah, and again, we say this every time. Alex and I, neither one of us really pay attention much to college basketball. So we're not going to sit here and act like, oh, we've been scouting him and we know all about him. We only know
I watched the YouTube highlights, Corey.
just like a lot of other folks. But and highlights are just that, the highlights. But he averaged 19 points, 6.5 assists this past year, 13 points in his career during his college years. From what I saw, and you tell me if you see the same, this is the feedback I got from watching the highlight videos. He could dribble, he could shoot, and he can get to the rim. That's basically my takeaway. He could score in multiple ways, kind of like a LeVert a little bit, to be honest with you. And he has some size. You know what I mean? So that was the takeaways for me. And anytime you can see somebody that can score, that's always going to make somebody excited. But how does that translate to the NBA? And will he actually be a part of the rotation? That's yet to be seen. It does feel like we have a little bit of a logjam now in that two guard, like just in that guard line. Like you have Mitchell, you have Okoro, you have LeVert, you have Strus. Then if you go smaller, you have Merrill, you have Porter Jr., you have Garland. Ty Jerome is still on this freaking roster. Like, you have a lot of guards right now. So it does feel like them selecting Tyson potentially makes it easier for a LeVert or for an Okoro, the two players you've been hearing the most about in trade rumors, a little bit more expendable at this point.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, that's the truth, right? But yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's a rookie. He's still got a few years before, to figure it out. Maybe we'll play him at the 3 some and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying a couple minutes ago how I feel like next season, the success of the Cavs really falls on Garland having a bounce back and Mobley having that leap year. I feel like potentially Tyson could be a factor as well, because anytime you can get a draft pick that's not that 1, 2, 3, that's just like supposed to be the guy for your team. Because remember, the Cavs are in a different situation. They're not. They're a contending team, so they picked outside of the lottery, right? But there's been plenty of examples over the years where a guy in a second round turns into, Mark Price, who was taken in the second round, and we all know what Mark Price turned into, right? So let's just pretend Tyson turns into something and he can contribute like this year, and that elevates everything as well. If you kind of get something out of a player that you're not really supposed to get anything out of, which is a rookie being added to a playoff contending team, that would be huge for the Cavs if Tyson were able to come in. And like a Craig Porter Jr., think of what Craig Porter Jr. did last year. Unfortunately, that fizzled off mainly because of JB's, rotational issues, but also Porter Jr. had some health issues as well. Imagine if Tyson could do something like that, but throughout, basically an entire season. That'd be huge for the Cavs.
Yeah, totally agree.
So we'll see. With that being said, we'll actually get to see Tyson and others play basketball starting this weekend as Summer League is upon us. It's not real Cavs basketball, but at this point, it's like we're all fiending for some Cavs basketball. And Summer League is always fun. It goes by quick. It's only 4 games, Alex. But anybody you're looking forward to seeing play, or maybe we should talk about what that roster is, and then we can go to that.
Have you looked at all into how we can possibly watch these games?
Legally or illegally, sir? What do you desire?
I'm saying ESPN Plus was going to have some of the games.
Yeah, I think so. I think, even with Summer League, I don't know. I think blackout rules are still going to apply. I could be wrong. I'm looking at the schedule right now. There's 4 games. 3 of them say NBA TV. 1 says it's on ESPN. So if you have NBA TV, my guess is there's still going to be blackout rules. The ESPN game, that might be one that you're not going to have any issues as long as you have ESPN. But outside of that, Alex, I haven't seen anything else, unfortunately.
All right. Yeah, I might not get to be able to see him then.
Well, you just don't get to see them, legally.
Legally.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So let's talk about this roster real quick, and then I'll cause I got it up along with the schedule.
Sure.
So Amani Bates obviously will be there. I know a lot of Cavs fans want to see him, get some minutes this year and get basically an opportunity. We'll see if that happens. Can't forget about him. DJ Burns, we didn't talk about that. So the Cavs, after the draft happened, DJ Burns went undrafted, and the Cavs decided to sign him for the Summer League. Do you have any takes on DJ Burns?
I really like this pickup because he's he dominated.
He's a big.
Yeah, he's a big. He's like tractor trailer. He's
Oliver Miller style. Yeah, tractor trailer. I like
dude.
that one.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He likes to bang in the post. He plays that old school center position that kind of has been phased out of the NBA. He's like a big baby Davis. Yeah. So I like this pickup. I think it's pretty cool that he went undrafted and we were able to scoop him up for next to nothing. It's surprising he went undrafted. I guess it's not surprising because of his play style, but at the same time, he dominated through March Madness, through the tournament. And, I'm excited to see how he does in the Summer League.
Yeah, so am I. I'm curious to see how he plays as well. I don't think he gets a roster spot or anything like that, but maybe he makes the charge. Maybe he makes the charge roster, and that'd be kind of cool. Or maybe he has a good enough showing where some other team decides to take a chance on him. But that's kind of cool. There was a lot of Cavs fans that seemed excited about that pickup as well when that happened. Let's see who else we got. Pete Nance will be there. He's been with the Charge for a little while. Kirk Porter Jr., we'll get to see him running around out there. That'll be fun. Luke Travers is back. Good old Luke, man. He's fun to watch, Alex.
Yeah.
Man, I really enjoyed. Man, I still remember that first Summer League. Man, were Cavs fans buzzing. Man, were they buzzing. And then
he looked so much like Larry Bird with that mullet and his look.
Yeah. And he plays, I think it's I forget what league he's in. I won't pretend I know. I think he's on Delhi's team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he plays for Australia.
He plays for Australia, right? And for a little while, I was looking into ways to watch that league, and I found like their YouTube channel where they at least post highlights. And I think they do live games. It just, at 1:00 during the middle of the day, we're working, so it's just kind of hard to catch those games. But yeah, it's pretty cool. He plays with Delhi, but it'll be fun watching him as well. So there's obviously some other players on the team, but those are kind of the standout ones, or the ones that, some Cavs fans should at least recognize. And then as far as the schedule, there's 4 games on the Summer League schedule. First game is Friday, July 12th against Orlando, 4 p.m. Sunday, July 14th against Milwaukee, 3:30 p.m. Wednesday, July 17th, Golden State, 10 p.m. game. And then they wrap up against Bronny James, July 18th, 9 p.m. That should be fun. That's the ESPN game, by the way.
All right.
So kind of weird times, Alex. It is what it is, though. But yeah, Cavs Summer League basketball is here, and if you have a way to catch it somehow, it's always fun to do.
Yeah, I always love watching those games. It's fun to see the guys that are trying to make a spot somewhere, trying to get their name out there and prove something. See how they do.
Yeah, totally. So is there anything else? I feel like we talked about a lot of different things. Is there anything else you could think of, Alex, you want to touch base on?
Not that I can think of.
I do. Okay, I'll ask you this then we'll wrap it up. You read a book recently, didn't you? Cavs book.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
The Return of the King. It was it's been a while now since I read it. It was all about LeBron coming back to the Cavs. His whole "I'm coming home" thing, and then bringing in Kevin Love and pairing LeBron with a very young Kyrie.
Yep.
And David Blatt, who they brought from Europe to the Cavs to to help develop a really young team, and instead they got a veteran championship team built that off season. It's very, very good, interesting book. It's written by Wendy, and somebody co-wrote it with him. I
Yeah.
should know that guy's name. I can't remember. And yeah, it's an excellent read. There's a whole lot of things that I had forgotten about that time period that came flooding back reading that book. It was really good. Highly recommend it.
It's crazy how long it's been already since all that went down. And yeah, totally. There's things like, just think like another like 15, 20 years from now, going back, reading a book like that or reliving how that all came to be, and just that Cavs championship. And, there'll be those documentaries, the LeBron documentary when he retires, and, all that will be part of it. That's the great thing about a book like that, is because you get to go down memory lane. And ultimately, up until this point in Cavaliers franchise history and in our lives, that's the best moment that there's been.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to live it. And like you said, in this, and I'm just as guilty of this, a lot of people are, you forget a lot of how things kind of went down, or you learn things of how things went down that wasn't really public at the time. So you learn some tidbits too, as well. And you just think, man, I wish we can go back to that time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's always fun grabbing books like that. And I know you were really into it. You were telling me about it as you were reading it, and I was like, we got to talk about it on the pod. And just hadn't had an opportunity to bring it up, so I figured we'd bring it up. And yeah, it's one of those books you can easily find out there.
And it's really detailed about that time period. Like it goes into everything, like, how we drafted Andrew Wiggins and how people felt about that and the trade and bringing in Kevin Love, and even about David Blatt. It talks about, there's plenty of interviews with LeBron, right? There's a whole lot of how LeBron was feeling and the things that LeBron was saying, and how he was getting along with Coach Blatt, and how he was getting along with Ty Lue, and things that were being said in the huddles and in the locker room. And, it talks about, the Cavs, 20 games into the season, and they were playing terribly. And LeBron, from his point of view, was thinking, I knew it was going to be a struggle. I knew I was going to have to come here and have patience and have to break, a lot of, just a lot of bad things that the Cavs had been doing, and change it, and just change the culture. And he knew that it would take, possibly a full season or longer for that to happen. So it's just really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad we got to talk about it. And Cavs fans, I mean, it's going to get to the dog days of summer here, right? At some point. So looking for a book to read, a Cavs book to read, and want to relive kind of that time frame. It's an easy book to find, and a good read. I own it as well. And when Alex was talking about it, it brought back the memories to me too when I read it. So definitely go check it out. Probably can find it at Amazon, probably at a library somewhere, eBay for a couple bucks, something like that. And hey, there's not too many Cavs books that have been written in franchise history, so most of them are from that era. You can find
there's actually a lot of Cavs books. I was like surprised to see like just how many books like Terry Pluto has written about the Cavs history.
But how many have you found that are prior to LeBron? That's where I challenge. I have a couple. I have 2 or 3 of them, but it's hard to find a lot.
There's Miracle at the Richfield books.
Yeah, there is. There's a couple out there, but there's not a ton. So
yeah. So you read Return of the King?
Yep.
Was it a long time ago that you read it?
It was a while ago because I got it as a gift a couple years ago now, and I read it like right away. So but it was fun reliving all that, and just man, reliving that time. I mean, it's just
it truly is fascinating to hear like just everything that went on behind the scenes those years, that year that they lost to the Warriors, and then everything, it goes into everything. It's crazy. Just, about Draymond Green and the Warriors and Steph and Clay and the whole running it back, and they end up adding Durant, and it's just,
I'm looking forward to the video documentary 10 years from now, 20 years from now about that time period in that team, and they bring back Richard Jefferson and Channing Frye and Dell. Like I'm waiting for that. That's going to be
There's a lot
awesome.
of Jefferson and Channing in it. Is it Channing or was it Jefferson? I can't remember. Somebody wrote the foreword of the book.
I think it was Jefferson. I think it was Jefferson.
Yeah, I think it was Jefferson. Like the first, 6-7 pages or a foreword written by Jefferson about the championship parade and little tidbits about that of things that you probably wouldn't know that are really cool. And one of the other fascinating things I thought was the whole coaching thing, with David Blatt and his relationship with LeBron and the rest of the players. And they talk about the interviews that he would give. And, anytime that they complimented him or the players complimented him, he never accepted a compliment. He was always like, oh, I've been a championship coach in Europe for 20 years, like this isn't new to me. Like, they congratulated him winning his first NBA game, and he was very he
not a big deal.
Didn't like it. Like he blew it off, and he I don't know. He just didn't get along very well with
different culture. And that's why it didn't work out ultimately. So, but that's crazy. That's what I mean. 20 years from now, there'll be young Cavs fans like, what? The Cavs hired a guy from Europe to coach the team? What? John Beilein? What? How long was he here? They did what? You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be crazy to all relive again in the future. And this book does a good job of capturing that. And there's other books out there, especially around that time frame and about the championship and so on and so forth.
We'll see David Griffin.
We'll see how many books get written. We'll see how many books get written future state. That'll be the interesting to see. When's the next Cavs book actually written? There's got to be a reason.
The Cavs didn't even think they were going to get LeBron. They didn't think LeBron was going to come back, and David Griffin flew out to talk to him. And even after that, he didn't think that LeBron was coming back.
Yeah,
everything came together very last minute.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's cool.
All right, well, there it is. Let's wrap this episode up, Alex. Want to thank you, Cavs fans, as always, for tuning in and listening. And Alex, let them know where they can follow us and connect with us.
Follow us on Twitter, X, at Cavs Pick and Roll. Shoot us an email, cavspickandroll@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr. Watch this episode on YouTube. Wherever you're listening, click like, subscribe, leave a rating or a review. We'd appreciate it.
All right, Cavs fans, there it is. We will talk to you again soon.
Peace out, Cavs fans.